Hey guys, it's Randall here, and I have with me my friend Emily Painter, and we're going to be talking about the movie Velvet Buzzsaw because we were both really excited for it. It was on my anticipated list of the year if you saw that. So, what did you think of it?
Honestly, massive disappointment. I think this movie had so much potential. From the trailer, I was thinking about, oh my gosh, all of these themes that they could explore. Art is such a huge, huge topic. And I was just so disappointed, honestly. And I
Yeah,
have so many criticisms.
yeah, I guess we're on the same page then. I didn't really care for the trailer. I mentioned that in my video talking about it. But,
Yeah.
I just thought, well, Netflix has hit or miss trailers anyway, so who really cares? Like, some of the ideas it wanted to explore, like on paper, like they could be executed really well, but I feel like it was just such a botched mess. It was such a botched
Mm.
mess. The first half of the movie, have you ever seen American Psycho?
Yes, yep.
I feel like the entire first half of the movie was like trying to be American Psycho, but for the art, whatever it's called, the art business.
I never made that connection, but now that you
Dude,
mention it,
no,
I totally see
rewatch
it.
the opening to American Psycho and then rewatch the opening credits to this movie, Velvet Buzzsaw. The song that they even use for both movies is almost exactly the same. And so from that point, I was like, oh, this movie's trying to be American Psycho, wasn't it? And like even the dialogue and everything just really reminded me of American Psycho. The only thing is, it was not as well executed as American Psycho, nor was it as subtle or funny.
Yes, definitely agree. I would say the only saving grace for this movie, which made it tolerable for me, was the actors. I think they did a phenomenal job, especially Jake Gyllenhaal. Honestly,
Yeah,
I don't know how to pronounce his last.
it's
He's the love of my
Gyllenhaal.
life. Gyllenhaal, there we go. Um, I think he did an absolutely amazing job. And then there were just so many um, narrative kind of parts of the movie and also technical parts that just completely let him down. But at least he was there to kind of bring it together. That was my view anyway.
Yeah, he did good for most of the movie. I think there are some scenes that I don't know if I can necessarily blame it on him or if it's because of the scripts, but I was just laughing at his
Mm.
performance because of how like kind of overly dramatic it was. But again, I'm not really sure if that's on him or if that's the way the director told him, to act or that's what the script
Yeah.
dictated. So I'm not really sure who's at fault there, but there were a couple of scenes where I was just kind of laughing at what he was doing, particularly near the end. And the end of the
Yeah,
movie,
yeah.
like my the huge problem with this movie is I can't really tell what it wants me to think of it. Like it takes itself too seriously to be really funny, but then it's like
Yeah.
has so many jokes and is so ridiculous that it's hard to take it serious.
It's
So,
hard to know what to think. I feel like the point of art and film is a type of art, is it's meant to kind of frame your mind in a way that represents the makers, right? They want you to think something and see something from their point of view. And I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what the moral of this story was, whether there was one, whether there wasn't supposed to be one. I didn't know whether I was meant to view it as just uh, some kind of horror-y action suspenseful film, or if I was meant to think about the themes and say, oh, well, what does this say about art? Is this a critique on art? Like, I finished the movie and I still don't know. And if it was a critique on art, and specifically, I think it did touch on themes, how money kind of corrupts um, artistry, but they didn't go in deep enough for me to walk away and feel like, yeah, okay,
well,
I learned
I
something
think
from.
the themes of the movie are pretty obvious because they most of the time they just outright stated them in the dialogue, like, "Oh, well, we're gonna, artificially inflate the price of this, painting, by hiding all
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
ones and pretending it's rare." So, like, the criticism of the art business is pretty blatant. Like, I understood what the movie was trying to say, but the execution of it was just so not good. And
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
it was critiquing like the pretentiousness of a lot of art critics and just that
Mm.
whole culture in general. But again, the way it went about it was just so blatant. Like there was no subtlety to it at all.
I feel like that kind of obviousness where they literally pointed it out, and there were so many instances. Oh, money is ruining art. But the fact that it was so obvious, it was like, well, is this the real meaning of the movie? Is there something deeper here? Because I feel like there should have been.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just didn't find it. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah, what really confused me was just the tone of the movie. Like, I didn't understand, like, am I supposed to be laughing at this movie, or am I supposed to be taking it serious? Because there are some
Mm.
scenes that are just so dumb and ridiculous that I have a hard time imagining that they filmed it and said, yeah, this is supposed to be a serious scene. But at the same time, almost every other scene in the movie takes itself pretty seriously.
Yeah. Speaking of dumb and ridiculous, the visual effects and all of the technical aspects of this movie, my God, were they horrific. Can I just say,
Yeah.
like the blood splatters and everything looked so fake. Even the graffiti that you see on the walls just looks like green screen. The camera work was for me the most disappointing part of this movie because cinematography is something jumps out at you as really good, or often you just don't notice it. And
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't even at that don't notice it point. Like I noticed, but I noticed it was terrible because it didn't seem to fit how the movie felt. Like it wasn't artistic at all. And I was like, okay, in a movie about art, you might want to make the shots and look nice. It was shot like some kind of sitcom or something.
Hmm.
And the shots were just so basic. Like walking up the stairs, they were just like tripod up the stairs. I was like, come on, guys. You can't think of anything more creative to do
Yeah,
with
I've
this.
got to agree. There are definitely some scenes in the movie where I thought this kind of looks like a made-for-TV movie. I mean, it is a Netflix movie, but still, Netflix has put out some pretty like high-quality stuff, like Roma and
Mm-hmm.
Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It for
Yeah,
sure
it's
had
true.
a lower production value than I expected from this director, who again worked on Nightcrawler, and I feel like Nightcrawler channeled that American Psycho energy better
Mm-hmm.
than this movie did, even though this movie was more clearly inspired by it.
Yeah, I would say that. I also felt that, again, just on technical things, that the color palette was nothing special. There was no thought put into it. There was no color palette, I would say, um, which is something that I really enjoy in a movie. And again, I was just expecting so much because I personally have like a really strong interest in art. And I was like, okay, well, how can you mix a movie about art and also make it like a work of art? And there was, oh, I'm so
Yeah.
disappointed.
I
Can
mean,
you
even
tell?
if it wasn't trying to be like an art piece in and of itself, if it just wanted to be sort of like a satirical take on the art industry, like it just totally failed at that, because I feel like when I did laugh at the movie, I was laughing at points that I wasn't supposed to be laughing. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Mm-hmm.
it was a very confusing experience. And for the most part, for like 90% of the movie, I really felt nothing, watching it, because I was just like I said, the execution is just so messy that you don't even know what to get out of the movie. And the second half of this movie, I felt like it was trying to emulate the sort of energy that movies like Evil Dead 2 have, where it's like kind of a horror movie, but it's also kind of funny. But, I didn't
Yeah.
feel scared, nor did I laugh most of the time at the third act when like all the art was coming to life and things like that.
I Yeah, I totally echo that. Now, I'm a person that gets super scared with movies. Um, Even though I do watch a lot of horror films, I just completely freak out. I was not scared in this at all. So again, it's kind of that, what genre are you going for here? Nor did I laugh, again, the same as you, at really anything. I did feel that the way that the paintings kind of moved, it was really sort of weird. I honestly thought the movie would have been better without it if they found some other way to make them do that, or just have some kind of spirit in them. I was like, what does this spirit mean anyway?
I think
Oh, yeah.
the whole setup for it was it just didn't make any sense. It was dumb. I just, I don't understand if you're going to make a critique on like the art industry, why it has to be this weird, stupid horror movie about like haunted art. I just don't understand that. Why not just make a sort of drama about people in the art industry and just let that play out?
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Okay, another thing I noticed, there was some weird kind of uh like weird character arcs in the story that seemed to emerge from nowhere and also went nowhere. The artist who was an alcoholic, and then he was sober and he was like, "Oh, I can't make art anymore." I was like, "Okay, what does this mean? What are they about people like this?" But no, that was seemed to be literally, and he was, there by the end of the movie, and oh my god, he was able to make art again. And I was sitting there wondering, were any artists actually involved in the making of this movie?
Yeah,
There
and
was no thought.
the death scenes in this movie where they're like killed by art were just so dumb and ridiculous. The first one that
Stupid.
happened where the guy, loading the crates ends up crashing, that was hilarious. And I don't know if it was
Yep.
supposed to be. Like, he drops his cigarette on his shirt and then immediately combusts into flames. It was just so
Dire shirt.
ridiculous. He just immediately combusts into flames and then crashes into this building and takes his shirt off and like tries to soothe his wounds in like the bathroom of the building he crashed into. And then what happens after that? There's a painting inside the bathroom that he goes in, and it kills him. It's again, it's just super confusing. It seemed like it wanted to take itself
Mm.
very seriously in that scene, but it was just so ridiculous. The only thing
Yeah,
that
but it
really
could
made
have
me
been
laugh
anything.
was when he instantly combusted inside of his truck, and he was like trying to put out this huge flame that was engulfing his entire body. That was kind of funny, but
Also, the fact that when he was on fire, he proceeded to accelerate like straight into a building.
right.
There was
instead of
no braking
Yeah, instead of
involved.
applying the brakes.
He got like 5 meters in front of it, and he was like, "Wow, maybe I should start braking now."
Yeah. The only thing I liked about that scene, I thought it was a cool little detail. He was wearing a Metallica shirt, but the shirt in particular he was wearing was the album cover for their album Hardwired to Destruct, which is, this
Mm.
sort of mirage of faces like coming out of one head. And then the painting in the
Oh,
back of his truck was basically the exact same thing.
that same thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a cool little detail, but beyond that, the scene was just terrible. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think
Many of them.
what tops that though was when there was this guy in this art exhibit of an attic or something, and he gets choked to death by his own tie. Like a hand just suddenly comes out of nowhere from the ceiling and chokes him to death with his own tie. But he wouldn't have died anyway because the way he was hanging, the tie was putting pressure on the back of his neck, not the front. And the way the hand was grabbing the tie, it was grabbing both ends of the tie, so the tie wouldn't have gotten tighter. If it had grabbed like
He
this,
just went on.
yeah, if it had grabbed the short end of the tie only, then I could see, okay, he's not going to be able to breathe. But he grabbed the entire tie, and so he's just hanging there by the back of his neck. He shouldn't have died.
They tried to be really weird with the kind of death scenes. They were like, "Oh, how can we make art kill people? Art is dangerous." The only one that I kind of liked was when the chick got there was like a huge dome metal ball, and you feel inside it, and it, I don't know, tells you something
I
about
actually,
yourself.
yeah, I agree.
Anyway,
I really liked that scene. That was
that
the
was
only,
cool.
yeah, that
All
was
the
the
blood
only scene
splatter
in the
was really
movie
fake.
that had me feeling any sort of tension at all. When she was sticking
Yeah.
her hand in that thing, and I was like, "Oh God, something's about to go down." I liked
Mm.
that scene. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, but it's really the might be the only good scene in the movie, honestly.
My favorite. Oh, there was one kind of cutscene where I don't know something black like folded over the screen and then it unfolded and it was Jake Gyllenhaal's face and he was just standing there like looking at you because you were the painting that he was inspecting and that was my favorite scene but it was just him like staring at you for a little second
Yeah,
and saying something very pretentious.
yeah, that's pretty. I did think that was pretty cool. What the crap is this? The name Velvet Buzzsaw is apparently some kind of punk rock band one of them was a part of. Like it barely plays into the plot of the movie at all. Like I feel like it was
Yes,
just thrown in there just to give the reason, the movie is named Velvet Buzzsaw.
I had no idea so many story elements that were just left untied. So this woman had, and she was kind of like the head art interest industry. She was also kind of a cow, and she she had this velvet buzzsaw tattoo, and it was mentioned like in the movie, and I was like, oh, that's the title. What does it mean? It was never expanded upon.
Yeah.
We don't really know what it is,
It's just
whether it has any.
yeah, she was
Yeah,
just in a punk
does
rock
that
band or
have any
something.
relation? It has no relation to the spirit dude with the like evil art. Also, what wasn't expanded upon, they were doing testings on what materials they used for this art, and they were like, "Oh my god, it's blood!" But then the chick never told anyone, and it never went anywhere.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I thought there's just so many things in this movie that are like there, almost like just to be there for the audience. Like, oh, we're gonna say, that this woman has a tattoo of a punk rock band on her neck called Velvet Buzzsaw, so people will say, oh, hey, that's the name of the movie. And then we're gonna say, acknowledge that the paintings are made of blood just so the audience is aware, but then we're not actually gonna do anything with it in the actual plot of the movie.
Yeah.
The only
Oh.
thing that really paid off about that whole Velvet Buzzsaw thing is at the end, which is I think might be the dumbest kill in the entire movie. The tattoo
But it
on her
was kind of
neck of the
creative
Velvet Buzzsaw starts spinning and kills her.
because it is like a chain from a chainsaw or something.
Yeah, it's I forget exactly what. I mean, it's a buzzsaw basically. Is what she had tattooed on her
Yeah,
neck because that was the band's name, and it just starts spinning around on her neck, and all of a sudden blood gushes out of her neck, and she just dies. And it's like, again, if this
did
movie
you
was
feel?
going for like a super absurd satirical comedy, I would really like that. But it felt like it was taking itself a little bit too seriously for me to totally get into it.
Mm, trying too hard and failing too hard, I would
For
say.
sure.
The reason that I didn't feel at all scared at any point throughout this movie was the score was just terrible, very cheesy, just like some sharp violin. And yeah, there was nothing there to add suspense or anything. So again, another bland kind of part.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't pay attention too much to the score while I was watching it, but in the scenes that I did notice it, you're absolutely right. It was very generic and bland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's about all I really have to say about this movie. It's just a mess, and yeah, I didn't think it was very good.
No, I'm so sad about it. It's so bad that I just want to do it over.
Yeah, just
I want
just get it
someone else to
over.
do it justice.
Yeah. Again, it really sucks because
Oh
I
boy.
really liked that guy's movie, Nightcrawler. I forget his name. I'll probably throw it up on screen. But the director and writer of this movie, and I was wrong in my anticipation video. He has made a movie since Nightcrawler. I guess it just flew totally under my radar.
Oh,
I forget the name of the movie he's made between this and Nightcrawler, though. But anyways, any closing thoughts before we close this out?
okay. My one closing thought is in my kind of because I'm so disappointed about this. I'm constantly and I'm still looking for more in this movie. The only thing that I can potentially think, and I'm sure this is entirely incorrect, is that there was a kind of side narrative in the story of art critique and how critique of things basically can ruin people's livelihoods when you critique their work. And we've just done a whole like half an hour critique of this movie, and I'm like
I,
supposed to do.
I will say, bouncing off that, I think I'll say like it was criticizing a certain type of criticism. I don't
Mm,
necessarily think ours would fall into that because we're just two people talking. Even though we're going to put it out on the
that is
internet and
true.
everybody's going to hear it. We're not like, this is the worst thing since my mother's abortion. We're not being, that, I don't know what you
Yeah,
would exaggerated, I guess. So, whatever.
yeah, I feel that.
That's just something else in the movie that didn't really, it's kind of confusing. Like, what do you
Yeah,
want? What do you want me to take away from this? Like, all criticism is
so
bad.
many obvious themes. Mhm.
Well, anyways, thank you, Emily, for collaborating with me on this, and
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I'll upload it very soon. For everybody watching, Emily Painter, my good friend here, is going to have her own channel up soon. Well, she has a channel now. She doesn't have any videos on it right now, but hopefully soon she'll be putting some videos up on her channel, and you can go subscribe to her. I'll leave a link in the description to her channel so you can subscribe when she finally starts posting videos. And
Awesome.
I guess that's it. I'm Randall the Vandal. This is Emily Painter, and thanks for watching.
Bye bye.